looks legit to me.
And then they came out with the controllers and was like, would you do $1 each for these controllers? And I was like, yes, I would.
This movie late 2000s
Jail.
high school.
Straight to jail, John.
So guys, this means that Thanos is coming back in there.
Wait, say that again? It's fantastic.
Fantastic. The podcast where we talk about what we truly want.
What's up, people? Can you guys hear me? Welcome to the live stream. Today, we're breaking down some beautiful stuff, and we're talking about what we truly want here on the World Wide Web, or the webinar seminar, as we like to call it. And guys, tonight, I've got some boys with me. I've got Dave, the VHS aficionado himself. Darth Dabe. How's it going, Wade?
Darth Daber, here to force choke the answers out of you.
And we also got Jacob stall naked in his Lego room, the cinematic master of all time. Jake, what sets you got in there?
You want built sets or unbuilt sets? You want a little haul? You want a little haul?
Yeah, I want a haul.
For May the 4th, I decided to get 2 sets. I got the Onyx Cinder from Skeleton Crew.
Let's go. That's awesome.
That when they announced it, I didn't really have much interest in. I mean, as far as designs go, it's a pretty simple type of ship.
Yeah.
Especially for the price point, it didn't really move the needle. But then I watched the show, loved it. Since this is likely the only piece of Lego merch that'll ever come from the show, and I had so much fun with it, is to add it to my list.
Let's go.
Well, I think it was somewhere. It was actually when the ship in the show, Skeleton Crew spoilers, peeled its skin and became a different ship.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And I just realized I was loving the show, and I got it.
We never covered the show, which is funny.
Yeah, we should do a little like retrospective. But yeah, I was a big fan of Skeleton Crew. It was
nice,
pretty light. It was pretty easy. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Things that aren't fun, Andor, and that's the other set that I got. I got Cassian's U-wing from the show. Andor.
So good. I got it too, Jake.
And yeah, I cannot wait to build this one.
That one's pretty cool.
It's an awesome ship. In Rogue One, it's an awesome ship now that he's using it in the show. It's really timely right now too. So I'm going to build this one very soon. I think next week.
Nice, dude. You can see what's behind me. Boop boop.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's really cool.
The UCS Jango Fett's starship. Disney's so scared to call it the Slave One.
Can we say slave on YouTube? Okay, good.
I don't know.
We'll find out, I guess.
We'll find out. Wait, do we have any opening stories this week?
No, I don't have any opening stories. Unfortunately, not one of those tapes is sold yet from last week. So
oh, no, dude.
I got one offer, and of course, it was for the one I mentioned that I wanted to keep, which was Aliens. And I haven't accepted it because it was a little bit low. So
okay.
If you guys have something you want to talk about, though, there's a trailer we're going to discuss tonight that I'm going to watch right now. So.
Oh. All right. Well, let's see. I might be able to pull out one of these.
We're live, Wade, so we can do whatever we want.
Yeah. Let's see here. You guys like?
Shoot us a comment. We'll answer it if there's any comments.
I've got some cool Nickelodeon stuff I could show.
Show it, Wade.
Okay. So I mentioned on your screeners, that's what the Barney tape was that sold.
Yeah.
They're like promotional tapes and stuff. So this one is a SpongeBob one. As you can see on the blue thing on the bottom there, it reads, for distributor, promotional use only, not for sale, rental, duplication, or public performance.
Oh.
So these things are like pretty rare, and this one's sealed. So
nice.
Should get like $100 on it.
Nice.
And then I don't know if anyone ever watched Eureka's Castle or had any kind of weird, this one's just a rare, crazy tape.
Interesting.
Also sealed. It's got the orange tape, like Nickelodeon.
Oh, it's sealed.
It is. Yep.
Wow.
But
nice,
yeah, that's a deep cut to probably some people,
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't think I ever watched it, but
me neither.
Harder to find, so. Pretty cool.
Jacob is currently laughing at the trailer. We're gonna break it down here in a minute. Peacemaker season 2.
Do you want to do this? You have another picture here of some Superman stuff. You want to do that first?
Do we have a Superman picture?
What's this?
No, that's in the trailer.
Oh, this is Peacemaker trailer?
Yeah. So it's tying in with Superman. Isn't that wild?
Okay, well, we'll come back to it in a second. Then.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Did you watch it, Wade? You didn't watch it?
No, I never watched Peacemaker, though. In the first.
Yeah, but that's okay. It ties into Superman. Whatever.
Gotcha.
We might have to spoil it for you.
When does it come out?
It comes out August. So I honestly don't really even care about the character of Peacemaker.
He just saw it looks like.
Jake, are you back? Jake, you back?
Yeah, hey, what's going on?
What'd you think of Peacemaker?
Have you guys started talking about that yet?
We talked a little bit about it.
That looks funny, dude. That first season of Peacemaker is really good. I don't know what you've said about it so far, but
Wade's never watched it, but I've seen it. And
okay, yeah. It's definitely adult.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing really, I think, too explicit. I think the violence and language are pretty intense.
Yeah.
But just like all James, of course it's going to be ridiculously inappropriate for normal consumption, but also have a really, really deep heart to it. And I didn't really expect that from Peacemaker, who's such a seemingly stupid and he's pretty much the bad guy in James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah.
He's an antagonist in the movie by the end. And to be able to acknowledge that he was a bad person and offer a little bit of redemption to the character was really, really crazy that he was able to do that in 8 episodes of really solid storytelling. And on top of that, it was funny.
And they introduced Vigilante, which he was hilarious.
Yeah, and Vigilante. It's great because Peacemaker in that show had to go from goofy character to leading man, and which John Cena did an incredible job with.
Oh, yeah.
His acting chops are ridiculous. Shocking, really. But yeah, having Freddie Stroma play Vigilante, just unhinged, awkward guy, hilarious.
Jake, have you heard the rumors of season 2?
Well, I really didn't know anything about season 2. I just watched that trailer, and it looks like it's full integration into the new DC.
Yeah, Wade, show that next picture. We got Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, and Hawkgirl from Superman, from the Superman trailer, and also Maxwell Lord, played by Sean Gunn, which was wild to see. So, yeah, I mean, they're like recruiting new heroes, I'm assuming. Is that what? And they're like, Peacemaker sucks,
That's what it seems like. They didn't even care to interview him. They were just
arguing. They basically accidentally have the microphone on to where Peacemaker can hear them talking about him.
No.
And they're like, this guy sucks. Like, why would we put him on our team? He's like, I can hear you.
That's hilarious.
But there's some rumors that Green Arrow is in this season.
Wow, that'd be cool.
That would be kind of cool.
From the old show?
No, a new Green Arrow. Basically. So
that's going to cause a riot with Stephen Amell, who felt like he never got his due because Arrow was his Green Arrow was a TV character.
Yeah,
and he felt passed over when the movies never acknowledged the CW Arrowverse. And he's had some pretty crazy rants about it. So the next time a Green Arrow shows up, which is inevitable, it'll happen.
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
5-ish years, there's gonna be an awesome Twitter meltdown. I kind of can't wait.
Nice. Well, anything else that stood out in the trailer, Jake? I mean, it's fresh on your mind.
It just looks good. The team from season 1 was so weird. It was a weird cast of people.
Yeah.
It seems like they're all back. Obviously, Murn's not.
Also, Rick Flag Sr. is mad.
Yeah, that's going to be good too.
Because Peacemaker killed his son in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and Rick Flag's death was a huge part of the first season. His last words to Peacemaker in the movie were in Peacemaker's head the entire season. So, and I think that was important because Peacemaker can't really be let off the hook for what he did. He murdered a good guy.
Yeah.
On a mission, straight up, and even though he was able to find some redemption and save the world, you really can't forgive that too much. That's still something his character did. So.
Exactly.
And I thought that was what made the first season so good, was it wasn't trying to say, here's a bad person. Hey, he's okay now because he has his own show. It's like
there's still consequences. Yeah,
he's a bad guy and he's facing a lot of consequences. And I thought that's what helped a lot in the first season. So I think that'll continue to help in the new one.
Sweet, it's gonna be fun.
Also, 2 peacemakers at the end of the trailer. Whatever.
Yeah, what is that about?
I'll watch. Peacemaker walks into a room and another peacemaker points a gun at him. Who knows? But
yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. That's fun. That's on the horizon. August 21st comes out a little bit over a month after Superman, so that's kind of fun. Let's jump into this next topic, Wade. Tales of the Underworld. All 6 episodes are out. They're on Disney Plus. They came out May 4th. We've got 3 episodes on Asajj Ventress and 3 episodes on Cad Bane. And so, let's go. Let's jump into this. Let's jump into Asajj first. Jacob, you want to give us a rundown on these 3 episodes, and then we'll jump into some of the canon stuff. You know what I'm saysaying?
Yeah.
If there's any
canon fodder from the old episodes.
Yeah.
I will. I have a little canon fodder prepared for after we talk about Andor as well.
Okay.
Nice.
But yeah, pretty roughly I was a little unexcited for this just because I figured, we have to start out with there's this book. This is Star Wars Dark Disciple. It's based on 8 unproduced episodes of the Clone Wars that had already been written. They have the names of the episodes in the front of the book.
Wow. I didn't realize
scripts were all written. They were all written by Katie Lucas, George Lucas's daughter.
Wow.
And they were gonna be, throughout the Clone Wars show, Ventress had the story. She was an assassin, and then she was left behind, left for dead, and she became a bounty hunter, and eventually even, kind of a bit of a protagonist with Ahsoka for a couple episodes. Anyways, these 8 episodes that this book is based on that were written by Katie Lucas were going to be the end of Asajj's story. I think their original plan for the show was 8 full seasons, not the abbreviated 6th and 7th that we got.
Yeah.
And so these last 2 4-episode story arcs would have been the conclusion of Asajj's story. Since the scripts were written and the show was canceled, this book came out in 2015, maybe.
Nice.
And so, yeah, they had an author come in and take the scripts and novelize them. Pretty much what happens is the Jedi Council, after Count Dooku pretty much kills an unarmed civilian transport, the Jedi Council kind of makes a dark decision and says, maybe we should assassinate Count Dooku to end the war. We're obviously not going to bring him in. So they have Quinlan Vos, who the show, the Clone Wars show, was setting up as a bit of a maverick, a bit of a bad boy kind of Jedi. I think he was in maybe 2 episodes that were a bit of setup for this story. They wanted Quinlan Vos to find Asajj Ventress and have the 2 of them team up and kill Count Dooku. And throughout the story, Ventress and Vos fall in love. And Vos is, a very untraditional Jedi, so that, he's kind of torn between, this love story that's happening and his Jedi duties. Anyways, he helps Asajj Ventress really almost reconnect with the light side of the Force. But Count Dooku kind of gets an idea of what's going on. This is a really, really rough overview. It's a pretty thick book, but pretty much Count Dooku gets an idea of what's going on and sways Vos to the dark side. And so
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, Ventress pretty much has to save Vos. And the whole thing ends on Dathomir, and she's able to save him, redeem him, but she dies in the process. Look, I read it 5 years ago. The exact.
No, that's great. That's great.
But that's pretty much what happens is Ventress dies and they have to lay her to rest, and that was going to be the end of her story in the Clone Wars.
Dude, were you so hyped when you saw Quinlan Vos carrying her body with Obi-Wan?
Yeah, well, I was more shocked and relieved. So when Ventress showed up in the Bad Batch last year, obviously this is after when she would have died. Now she had all of the Dark Disciple stuff. She had her yellow lightsabers. It was just kind of like, what do you say, Wade?
Her haircut, probably.
Yeah, the haircut. Yeah, she by the time the show started, she had been growing her hair out. I mean, the book started. But I was just kind of like, so are they setting up like a Ventress show? Are they just gonna say, yeah, she's not dead? But Yeah, so I was just kind of like, yeah, it's fine, whatever, I'll let them do it because she's an interesting character, and if they have plans, I'm game for it. But yeah, so Tales of the Underworld, I just figured it was going to be spinning out of that, and I was like, nah, they'll never address the book, and I guess that's fine. I got to accept it. And then they literally showed the ending of the book at the very beginning, and I was locked in for these 6 episodes after that. That just put such a good taste in my mouth of like, that is really cool too.
It's cool to see a book adaptation in cartoon
exactly.
form. That's pretty cool.
And it like hit me back. I was like, I remember this scene. I remember reading, it's at the end of the book with Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan and Voss are old friends. And Obi-Wan's obviously, because these were going to be Clone Wars episodes, he's a big part of the book too, and kind of their friendship and how much they love each other, like brothers, but their ideals are so different. And Obi-Wan had to see him fall to the dark side. So that scene is so great with them at the end, where Obi-Wan is glad to have his friend back, but he recognizes what his friend lost. And it also helps set up, and this would have been great too if they could have had it all in Clone Wars. It sets up really well Obi-Wan's appreciation for a Jedi having essentially an affair. Not an affair like, cheating like in our world, but, against their vows. Because Obi-Wan sees his close friend who had fallen in love, and how much it meant to him, and how her love literally saved him from the dark side. And that sets up Obi-Wan pretty well to be like, I've got another pretty much brother who's in the same situation. Just really cool storytelling. It's an awesome book. I can't recommend it enough. And so in Tales of the Underworld, it spun right out of that. It explained how she came back, and so what it was her Mother Talzin said.
She has a choice, basically. You can either stay with us in the afterworld or go back, but you can't be with Quinlan. You can't have your desires, basically, which was interesting.
And so the story that they tell throughout the 3 episodes is pretty simple. She helps a runaway Jedi find the path, which was an awesome connection to the Obi-Wan show, where they pretty much establish what the path is. They say, it's a safe place for people. And even in the Obi-Wan show, they say Quinlan Voss founded the path. Obi-Wan sees the writing, and he's like, Quinlan was here. He's shocked. His friend is alive.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about all that.
That's a live action show I want. Quinlan Voss, just call it The Path. That would be such a cool show, like kind of like the Underground Railroad, but for Jedis. You know what I mean? Like that'd be so sick.
And here's the thing: the all the pieces are there. Voss has been set up. Voss has been referenced twice now as running this path. Ventress is out there in the world and has some sort of desire to hopefully see him again. I think that's a story they're going to tell eventually, and I'm really excited for when they do. But yeah, so she helps this young kid find the path, and eventually he decides to stay with her. And it's a fun little story. I don't think the story was anything special, but I think
it wasn't.
I was going to agree. Yeah,
it was so worthless. I thought, I was like, what is the point of this?
The most interesting part of the episodes to me was when she found the Separatist survivor.
That was cool,
and that was good because she had to acknowledge, because he was like, yes, Lady Ventress, and she was like, oh my gosh. So she had to kind of acknowledge, she's trying to help a Jedi now. She's really trying to be good, be the light side. And here's somebody who reveres her for her past. I think they could have done more with it. But it was an interesting concept. All in all, the story was fine. I can't even remember the kid's name. I don't think you
Lyco.
Lego?
Lyco.
Okay, cool. Well, maybe we'll see Lyco again in this eventual path project.
Yeah.
And these episodes will be kind of essential, but I'm just kind of happy for the clarity. Asajj Ventress is in their toolbox again. They can use her in anything they want, and we know why. I think it kind of sucks to have a whole 45-minute short. I really view these as like 45-minute shorts. You know what I mean? Instead of 3 little episodes. It kind of sucks to have a whole 45-minute short about the character. Just say, hey, by the way, this is where she is now. But
yeah, that is kind of weird.
I'll be happy with it.
And also a waste of like the Underworld. I feel like Underworld is more so bounty hunters, right? So Cad Bane made sense.
And Tales of, she fits into so many boxes, but obviously they felt the need that they needed to explain why she's here and that she's going to be active for whatever reason. So I'm confident that they're going to do something. But as we're about to talk about, it shows what these 45 minutes can really do. And then, so do you guys have anything else about Asajj Ventress?
I was just gonna say the Inquisitor fight was pretty cool. It was pretty cool when she
Oh,
fought
that Inquisitor was cool.
both
That
of
was
them
a
together.
cool. That was a cool design. The Inquisitor design.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had the Inquisitor episode. You had the random heist that didn't even work out. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
it's just like, what's the
Yeah.
like? They were like, oh, it didn't even work. So Jedi's are worth more money. So I'm gonna take you in. It was like, what? And then the next episode was the weird like lizard people and finding the path. But then he doesn't even go on the path.
Yeah.
So she didn't even like save him. He stayed with ended up staying with her.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
True. That is true.
It felt like it just didn't have a reason to exist other than she's alive. Yep.
Yeah.
It was the story was pretty much a nothing burger. You kind of hate to see it. I'm not going to hate the show for it. It was fine, but yeah, I'm really glad that it exists, even though it could have had a little more sauce and been something more. It felt like a very here's the book ending and here's the start of something new in the future. Here's the bridge.
I honestly do think we are going to get a Path sort of Disney Plus show. I wish it was a movie. Could you imagine like a Quinlan Vos movie like about the Path? Like it's like takes place right after Order 66. I don't know. I think that would be sick, but I don't know. Just a thought. Maybe they need to get out of the Skywalker saga though. I don't know.
Yeah, but when there's so many pieces in place, I think it'll be
also
it'll be worthwhile to explore it.
The Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order talk about the Path.
They talk about the Path a lot, and
Cal Kestis is a sick character.
Yeah.
So if you could bring in Quinlan Vos, you have Cal Kestis. That would be cool. I don't know, but let's talk about Cad Bane.
Guys,
Cad Bane.
Well, am I the only one who felt like this was like really, really cool? I haven't talked to anybody else about this. What did you guys think about it? Because I thought these episodes were just awesome. I loved the idea that he grew up on this planet as a kind of a street kid and was taken in by a gang. It's kind of a classic story, but
street rat, riff raff.
I was thinking the same thing. That's so funny.
No, a lot of tropes, a lot
of cowboy westerny type stuff. I liked seeing his origin as Colby.
I think it was a perfect origin for him. So I like the story and everything was great. I just was kind of depressed after watching it. Just kind of sad. It's kind of sad. Story. Like dang.
Yeah, he just ends up being awful,
and he just went straight with the bad guys, left his friend behind, and then ends up having to kill him. It's just kind of sad. But I mean, I get it though. It's a good origin.
They've never really shown Cad Bane's never really been a character with too much depth. I think we would have seen some of that in one of the canceled episodes that never got produced, the one where he trains Boba Fett. I think we would have seen a little bit more of his character, but otherwise he's pretty much just like, I've got a code, I'm a bounty hunter, and I will kill you to make money. That's pretty much him. Yeah. So I liked that they were able to sprinkle in a lot of plausible origins for him and give him the chance to have sympathy, but really throw it away and really earn, the title of being an evil person. There's nothing redeeming about him, and we got to see a couple chances where he had a chance and he chose not to. So even like Wade said, it's a sad watch because, you watch this entire life that could have get thrown away. But it kind of gets him into that spot. I thought I was actually pretty the twist at the end that his friend's son was actually his son.
That was pretty.
See that coming.
That was another sad thing. I was like, dang, why? Because he never obviously does anything with his own son.
Yeah, so he turns his back on it. He looks.
Dang, dude.
I mean, he realizes that this is his son, looks him in the eyes, and just walks away. I mean, that's dark.
Yeah, it is.
That's really dumb.
I also liked the character of Laszlo. It was kind of reminded me of like Indiana Jones a little bit, where it's like the passing of the torch was the hat. That was so cool.
By the guy, yeah, I love that because in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, you see the guy and you're like, that's Indiana Jones. No, he's not. That's who Indiana Jones wants to be his entire life.
Exactly.
That's who he's chasing his entire life. So yeah, it was funny to give him that. And I just love that, especially after the Asajj Ventress one, which felt like it was in between stories. I love that this was just a clean story. Cad Bane's origin. How much more, simple can you get than that? So I think that's what these Tales of should be. I didn't like in Tales of the Empire did a lot of
so rough.
trying to explain who Morgan Elsbeth was before Ahsoka being like, here, we're gonna give you some more about her. And I guess it did tell Barris's story, but again, that's a whole lot of other stuff. This was just so simple, where it's just like, Cad Bane, this is what you need to know.
Exactly.
So I was a huge fan.
So good. Wait, any final thoughts on Cad Bane? We had the one episode where it's like they're little kids. You got the Laszlo. Second episode was with the girlfriend, but also the guys become a cop, which was wild. And then the last episode being the big reveal.
Yeah, I guess what was sad to me is as I'm watching it, I'm like thinking, this gets really deep, I guess. But just like, what if I was to, pass away, then my son would have to live a life without me. That just it hit me in a way I didn't think it would. So maybe that makes it really good. Just
Nice,
kind of dark, took me to a dark place. But
good storytelling can do that sometimes,
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Sorry, I have a black screen. My camera's messing
That's
up.
okay.
But let's jump into Andor. I don't know why my camera's messing up. Here, one sec, guys. Sorry, technical difficulties. There we go.
There you are.
We're back. Let's jump into Andor, episode 7. Crazy stuff, guys. Let's get into this show. Jacob, we didn't get to really hear your thoughts about the last few episodes, so just give us a brief overview of how you're feeling so far in the show, up to episode 7.
Yeah, boy, this is going to be hard to differentiate because I binged these two story arcs.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm not even sure where to split.
Well, that's okay.
I just watched it.
Just give us your review of the
8 hours
of thus far.
This definitely feels like the meat of the season. I've got a feeling the last 3 episodes are going to be a lot of kind of final setup and just a couple conclusions. This definitely feels like it was like the main events. God, I don't even know where to start.
Dude, I'm hearing that apparently the story's just getting started, though.
That's great. See, here's the thing, though. You're hearing that. Who's seen it? I guess critics actually watched the whole season.
Some people have watched it all the way through already.
You're right. Critics reviewed the entire season beforehand. So, okay, I'll give you that. But, okay, so it's everything with Gorman. It really feels like one 6-episode story arc, honestly.
Yeah.
So, I don't know where to start. You're gonna have to prompt a little.
Yeah,
bit.
It's all good. Let's jump into episode 7.
A lot of stuff to binge. Really.
Yeah, tension is building around the situation on Gorman and a planet the Empire. They're targeting it for strategic purposes, and the Empire spreads propaganda painting the Gormans as dangerous, causing unease even among Imperials, and a sense of dread looms as plans begin to escalate, setting up the coming massacre, which was episode 8. But yeah, episode 7, how did you guys feel about this? This is kind of setting up Yavin, and we have Andor on Yavin. He's finally slowly getting a part of the Rebel Alliance, We have this Force user scene as well, which I thought was a little interesting because Luke is supposed to be...
so dumb. I'm sorry.
I thought it was kind of... I didn't like it because I feel like Luke is supposed to be an anomaly.
Well, and they always keep trying to throw in this Force healing. I'm like, okay, it works, but not during this time.
Disney's all about the Force healing. But Jake, how did you feel? Yeah,
I don't think it's too. It sounds like, because he was saying she was just like a cook in the mess hall, and there's like 4 guys just sitting around like watching. It sounds like it's not something that's really known. It doesn't sound to me like she's like the rebellion's Force healer. It sounds like it's just like maybe 4 or 5 people being like, yeah, it's like if your like school lunch lady was like reading tarot cards. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like she's that powerful or anything. She doesn't really know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that, because Luke comes in and he's bona fide. He's goated. The things he's going to do, and But yeah, it was an interesting scene. I guess it was just being used to set up kind of where he is mentally. But I'm wondering,
he's a messenger, which is kind of leading up to Rogue One, I think.
Yeah, but right? What's so irritating is not everyone needs their own prophecy. Like, I'm sorry, like Cassian Andor did not need to be like, oh, you're gonna be a messenger. Like, yeah, give me a break. Like, he's just a rebel. Like, but anyway.
Jake, how do you feel about that?
Like I was saying, I was just kind of like, what's the point? Why'd they write the scene? Usually the scenes are pretty important. There's not a lot of filler. So, I guess it was just kind of trying to get in his headspace a little bit. But maybe they were sitting around and they were like, well, Cassian doesn't, as a character, is not going to talk to anybody. So they were like, maybe we just need to come up with a way for someone to worm in his head.
He really wouldn't. That is such his character. Is like,
you know what I mean?
I just want to be left alone. Like,
yeah, he's very quiet.
I'll go do my mission and come home. And
they're like, so maybe that's it. But yeah, I kind of forgot about the scene until I just saw it.
What else happens? We get Mon Mothma. She is trying to advocate for Gorman in the Senate with talking to a bunch of different senators. What else is happening? I can't remember.
There wasn't a lot. It was a lot of setup for.
This is a big Gorman setup episode for
this
Gorman.
Episode struck me as like really short, but we were like binging them like crazy, and some were like an hour long, and this one was like 40 minutes. So it ended, and I was like, "What? Okay, next one."
Yeah.
Hey, so did you guys talk about the Gorman massacre next week? Not the one that we're about to talk about, but the Tarkin one.
We mentioned that. That was crazy.
Yeah, so because that's like, did you guys talk about how that's like an old like thing from like an old book?
Oh, it is. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's from like a rebel. It's like your rebel like handbook. It's from the 80s, and it's just like there's a part that mentions like it's like a debrief on like Grand Moff Tarkin. And what it says in the book is that Grand Moff Tarkin, soon after the formation of the Empire, was going to Gorman, and it's exactly how they described it in the show. They pretty much brought it back into canon.
Nice.
He went there and he wanted to land a ship. Protesters wouldn't move, so he landed it on them. So that's and then a bunch of expanded universe, which are now Legends books, in the 90s would reference that event as something that happened. So I remember when they said, one of the episode titles was like, "Have you ever heard of Gorman? Have you ever been to Gorman?" People instantly were like, "Whoa!" And then they reference it. So
they also reference it in Rebels, which we'll talk about too.
Yeah, and apparently they reference that event in Rebels, which I don't remember, but
they reference the whole speech too with Mon Mothma, which we'll get to. That's so cool.
We'll get to that. Yeah, let's jump into episode 8 first.
Episode 8 is the actual. Oh my gosh, this picture. The Gorman massacre occurs after a peaceful protest turns into violent due to the Empire's manipulations. Cassian attempts an assassination on Dedra Nero, but chaos erupts when the Empire cracks down on the demonstrators. And the action is emotionally devastating rather than thrilling, and the episode ends with a haunting montage. So, how'd you guys feel about this episode? It starts out, the Gormans, they all want to be there, but the main guy is like, don't do it, don't go there, it's a trap, But they end up still having this peaceful protest, and it escalates.
We finally got some action.
Yes.
And I liked everything until Cyril Karn. This was terrible to me. It felt like a waste of his whole character arc, like everything.
I thought they were going to redeem him, and he was going to become a rebel, one of the best rebels.
Well, and even if they didn't do that, like at least like some kind of like, because he was finally questioning,
the Empire. Yeah,
he was questioning everything, but then he sees Cassian Andor, and he like completely flips, and he's going crazy. But then,
I guess it just shows.
Then he gets killed by the Gorman guy. I was like, okay, like they didn't have that much beef. I was just like, this was just felt like everything from season 1. Through this, like his story arc in season 2 has been my favorite up to this point.
Yeah,
and then you just kind of kill him, and I'm like, okay, no, I wasn't following it.
I was sad about it. I was sad about it.
I think it's a waste of his character.
I thought they were gonna redeem him, but I can see why he did it because he hated Cassian so much. I guess he thought Cassian was Axis. Am I correct in that?
Yeah. So Jake? The whole time, I'll start before I start saying anything that I loved this ending for him. Because the whole season, we just haven't been able to get a read. We're like, is he questioning things, or does he love being important to the ISB? And obviously we could figure out he loved being important. But the whole thing, remember, they were trying to lure in outside instigators. He was like, that's what I'm here, right? That's all we're doing here. We're luring in outside instigators.
Yeah.
He's obsessed with that's his mission, right? So then he starts hearing about mining things and
he gets angry.
like that. And he's like, what the heck is going on here? He realizes he's been used, and Wade, you're right that this is, you know, his journey up until, because obviously we've known, you know, he's such a rule follower, such a stickler for the rules. Of course, he's going to help the Empire, but he has no idea that the ISB is, you know, really manipulative and really kind of a different type of twisted evil, where they're very a lot of ulterior dark motives. He just thinks he's trying to lure in, you know, the real bad guys to him. So he finds out he's been used, and then it seems like his character arc ends right there in the thing, right? Like you're thinking he's going to be redeemed. That's what I was thinking too.
But then he chokes out Deidre too. That I was like, dude, this guy's not a good guy though.
That was pretty dark. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying he's a good person.
Yeah.
Just that he's a stickler for the rules.
Yeah.
But then he sees Cassian, and because he sees Cassian and he thinks Cassian is the outside instigator. He's like, all this time, you know, this is what I've been working for. I've been here for what? He's been there 2 years now, trying to lure in an outside instigator, and it's the guy that he had hunted for a year earlier, and he just goes berserk. He said, I think he knows he's not getting out of that plaza. He knows there's nothing left, and I
thought it was the one thing I did think was funny was that Cassian didn't even know who he is.
No, I didn't like it.
You didn't like that? I thought it was. No. It kind of just showed like
it just made me like, oh, so his character is not that important to.
Yeah, I
anything.
guess
you know, like who are you even? Like, okay, yeah, you're just a nobody.
They did. Well, that's kind of the tragedy of his character. You know, he literally burnt his life for this goal, and it meant nothing. And that's what his service to the Empire got him. Nothing. He could have stuck in his corporate world and maybe tried to find some sort of meaning, but he burned his life for the Empire, and it gave him a pitiful death, a pretty lame death, and no sort of closure. He thinks that this is, he's in that square. He knows things are over. He doesn't want to go back to Deidre. She's the only one who would save him. If he stays there, he's going to die. He figures I might as well. This guy that I've hated, I've known it was him for so long. And then just finally have, who are you? He just realizes everything he's done is in vain. And that's the kind of thing that you get when you serve, the Empire, when you serve evil, is there's no meat, there's no substance.
There's no glory either, really.
There's no glory. And Wade, I think that's why you're kind of disappointed, is because you know that if he had maybe escaped and said, I know everything the Empire is doing, I was an agent for them, I can help so much, there's good, there's substance, that's something that means something. But he denied it, and he gave into vengeance, and he got nothing in return. So I think it's frustrating you, Wade, because there's that potential of good, but he just gives in to the darkest desires and chooses.
Yeah, but he hesitates to even shoot him at the very, very end. And I'm like, maybe we're going to go somewhere, and he's going to help, and then just dead. And yeah, like you said, that's probably the reason, but it's still like, I just feel like we wasted a whole lot of time watching his whole story. We liked his passion for the Empire and his passion for everything, and it's just kind of like,
it's interesting, like the whole,
it kind of is like real life, like people just die in tragic ways, and things happen, and I don't know.
That's the thing. Do you think he lived up to his mom's expectations as being like worthless? He's been told that his whole life, kind of thing,
dude, and that hurts me too. Yeah, like his mother.
It's a really tough story, because there's so many times he could have done something good and just chose not to, and it's frustrating to watch as a character. And I know what you're talking about too, because talk about the most fun character to watch. His supporting characters are great. He's been here since day one. His story is so tied to Andor's story, and that's why we followed it. He pretty much kickstarted Andor's rebellious streak back when he overreacted on Ferrix, and they've just been going down two different streams but near same paths, and they came together in this huge moment, and Andor's going to go on, and he's going to help save the galaxy, and Cyril's lying dead in a bar in Gorman.
It is almost okay. Picture this. It's almost like picture Cassian's death. Picture Cyril Karn's death. Which one amounts? You got the Empire. You got the Rebel Alliance. Andor. Sacrifices his life for the greater good, getting those plans to the rebellion alliance. But then you have Cyril Karn, who it's amounted to nothing, and he tried he was the best of the best, mentally probably following the rules, but it amounted to absolutely nothing. I don't know if that is maybe what they're trying to do. I have no clue.
Yeah, because the theme of the whole show is rebellion, obviously, and all that, and there wasn't an inkling of rebellion in Cyril's body. He wouldn't do anything if it wasn't.
Yeah.
And to him, that means siding with the bad guys. And even though his conscience maybe kicks in at the end, he still just can't shake everything, all the darkness that has seeped into him while he's been with them. It's a pretty interesting character study to me on
the other problem I was gonna say is Dedra herself. When she breaks down, I was like,
she's conflicted. Yeah.
No, I don't like it though, because usually all these Empire people are very get to work.
They're really trying to.
I get they're trying to show her humanity.
They're trying to make her like a Nazi, where they were just blindly following and didn't actually see some of the awful terrors.
And that's why I think she should have been more like that. I don't know. Just her character didn't seem to me to break down, and maybe it's because she actually did love Cyril, and maybe that's how I had to tell myself, because it just her breaking down because of the massacre. If that was the case, I was like, no. Do
you think it was more so because she was
her character has been this, kind of hard focused and unfeeling towards anyone else, who's against her. So
do you think it was more so that Cyril found out that she broke down and she? I don't know. Maybe she doesn't care. I have no clue.
It was after his death.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think it was probably she I think she loved Cyril, but he was also a really useful tool for her. So to have him take a position of scary power and attempt to kill her, or threaten to kill her, I guess, I think that kind of flipped her whole perception of the situation on her head. I don't think she was really freaking out about what she did. I think she would have killed everyone in that square. Because remember, what she was saying the whole time was, "We're gonna go home. This is gonna be it."
That's true.
I'm gonna get promoted. We're gonna get so many accolades. Look at this life we're gonna have because of all these people dying. She doesn't. I don't think she cares about the massacre. I think she's shocked because this massacre was supposed to be her ticket to go live her life with Cyril as a relaxed, cushy officer, and instead he threatened to kill her and ran out into the massacre. So her whole plan just got flipped on its head. And I don't think she's planned everything so much. I don't think she knew how to comprehend it,
So that makes me rethink it a little bit. Yeah.
Some positives about the episode that I liked were that the very beginning they bring in these crappy Imperial dudes with shields, what are they called? Riot control, basically. Yeah. And she's like, they look like children. They look like little boys, And they literally brought them in to incite more chaos. You know what I mean? And you notice the sniper fires the first shot at one of their own.
Yeah, that was good. That was really good, because that was them inciting it to make it look like they started it. The Gorman started it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Very espionage, I like it. So, any other things about this episode?
Yeah, we got to get into this.
Oh.
Yes, dude, I'm telling you, because they had a bit of a fake out with one of these Imperial security droids in season 1. One of them arrested him.
Oh, yeah.
Is it K2? And it's like, no, but it was kind of establishing that they're in this world. But when Cyril ran into that bunker with all the other loved ones of the Imperials, and one of them just kind of broke character a bit and was looking him up and down, I was like, that's him, right? That's got to be.
I thought the same thing.
K2, the way he just flicked his eyes and everything. It
shows how terrifying they are.
Talk about they're because dude, if you've played Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor, these things are hard to kill. They are ridiculous.
Yes, yeah.
And I literally was thinking that the whole time. I was like, wow, this is doing justice to the games where, the games I think are the only time you really see these guys in action. And they're pretty hard enemies. I mean, stormtroopers you can just slice through like butter. It's so much fun. But these guys you gotta, dodge and parry a little bit.
Yeah.
And their kind of reign of destruction there was actually pretty freaky. The way they were just
set them loose on all the Gormans, like man, killing all those rebels.
Well, they were like picking them up and like throwing them. I was like,
yes,
dang.
Yeah, wild, yeah.
But yeah, so I guess one of them tries to kill Cassian, and he gets a first-hand look at how strong they are, and he's like,
"Hey, help me out. Let's take this broken one."
I could use that.
Yeah.
And so
also, he's gonna need a friend with his breakup, which we'll talk about.
We'll get to that too.
A little buddy.
Jacob, did you want to talk about the canon thing now or later?
We will. Oh, we'll do it at the end.
Okay.
File over here.
Sounds
Episode
good.
9. Mon Mothma publicly denounces the Empire in the Senate, prompting a covert rebellion extraction mission for her. The tone shifts to espionage, with Cassian helping her escape Coruscant. The emotional fallout and political impact are deeply felt, making this a standout installment. This has been my favorite episode so far.
I was gonna say this is the best episode of the show.
This episode was insane, and having it come right after what I thought was going to be like maybe the climax of this story arc. Literally, they were able to have two, like climaxes of this story arc. They had the Gorman thing, and that was so many of the characters were involved in that, like Deidre and Cyril, Cassian, Willman, who we've been following a lot, who I thought was really cool.
Oh yeah,
so many characters had like the big parts of the story, but now we need Mon Mothma, who's one of the protagonists of the show.
She's the best character of this show by far.
This episode was just thrilling in such a different way. The episode 8 was pretty was like shocking.
Depressing.
I felt kind of like a little drained after it, and this was thrilling, like you said, in kind of an espionage escape way. Which was just so cool. And for Cassian having to do these across the span of 2 days, one of the characters says to him at the end of the episode, like, he must be tired. And dude, this was exemplary.
The fact that they had Andor be the one to escort her out, I was like, okay, that was pretty sick. A good idea.
There's
to have him
there's
be
one
the
time in Rogue One that they interact. It's when Jyn Erso comes to Yavin 4 and meets Mon Mothma, and Mon Mothma says, "This is Captain Cassian Andor, Rebel Intelligence." And,
Dang.
And I watched Rogue One again after watching the first season, and I was like, these two people are, running the show, and here they are knowing each other in Rogue One. I was like, I know they're going to have to come together in season 2 of Andor. And what an electric way to bring pretty much the show's two leads together.
Okay, so we got to talk. She's like, she knows she has to deliver this speech, and then she's got to get out of there. So she's practicing the speech, but there's like listening devices everywhere. She can't do it in her office. She finds out her assistant works for Luthen, which she's kind of mad about. But also that Balin, Bail Organa. Sorry, Bail Organa's like, people that are going to pick her up are apparently corrupt. Somehow Luthen knows. So that's a whole subplot as well, where actually one of them does turn out to be Imperial spy. And so that was pretty wild as well. But I did love her speech. Was probably my most favorite part of the show, where she's going in depth on all the massacres and talking about how where we mask evil basically as politics basically. We're doing this for this reason and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end, she talks about the person with the biggest stick or the biggest bully or the biggest monster is Emperor Palpatine. And then and all the stuff cuts out. I was like, oh my gosh, dude. It's so good.
Now,
so
I took
good.
this as this was like a speech just to the Senate. And then later she's like, I got to do another speech, and that was probably the one for Rebels. Is that right?
And that is shown in Rebels, yes.
Yeah, the one later, which she projects out to the whole universe or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they say that. They say, you have to do another one.
You have to do another speech.
Yeah.
When they said that, that was like how I felt when they showed the ending of Dark Disciple at the beginning of Tales of the Underworld.
Yeah.
I just felt like, what a cool thing to add one throwaway line to just gel, To be like, look, we know in Rebels that Gold Squadron takes her to Yavin and she makes a speech to the galaxy.
Gold Squadron, baby, let's go.
Yeah. So they were like, someone else is going to take her, and she has to make a speech on the way. They didn't have to say that. It didn't add anything to the episode.
And in the speech,
it respected Rebels, which showed this event from a certain point of view.
Yeah.
And it respected that it came before, while still adding its own flavor to it.
Yeah, and I love how Luthen's like, the person that gets you will say, "You have I have friends everywhere," and it turns out it's Andor. Obviously, He says it, takes her, and I love how he's shooting people, and she's like freaking out because she's like a senator. I mean, she's like not involved in anything violent at all whatsoever. So it is interesting to see that contrast of like Cassian's life is very different, but they're both very high up rebels, basically.
Dude, I loved when he was escorting her out of the building, and then the guy comes up who's like the corrupt one who's supposed to get her, and he's like, "Oh, what's his name? Cloris? Oh, hey, Cloris, we're over here!" He just kills him like, "Holy cow!"
This felt a lot like, to me, like in Better Call Saul, when Mike and Jimmy's stories would team up, and they do an episode together, like maybe once a season, where it's just kind of like these two people in the same show are doing their own thing, and what's essentially two different stories, even though they're in the same show. But every once in a while they team up. This felt a lot like that, where you get these awesome characters that well get to meet each other. It's like when you have a friend and you have another friend and you get to introduce them to each other.
Yeah. I just love how everything is gelling so well with Rogue One and Rebels and all. It's just, it makes you feel awesome as a fan,
Yeah, they like are actually respecting it. Like, I was getting nervous that they weren't going to do anything like that with Mon Mothma, and the fact that they just fully
and I never even realized in Rebels she's talking to like them about Gorman, the Gorman massacre. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So
and that's like how long ago?
Gorman, or does she just say? Gorman?
She says the Gorman massacre. I just watched the episode.
Oh dang!
Pretty wild, dude. I was like, dang, this stuff. It's like really tying together really well.
And that just shows a lot of love from the creators. Obviously the Gorman massacre is, when they put it in Rebels, was a fun reference to the dark incident that happened.
With Grand Moff Tarkin, yeah.
And now it shows that Tony Gilroy and his writing team really respect what's come before, and been like, Mon Mothma mentioned this was a thing in old Legends Star Wars. Let's use it. You know what I mean? Obviously they've added 95% of the stuff to it.
Yeah.
But that 5% of referencing what came before goes such a long way to people like us, and I really respect it.
I'm assuming Dave Filoni was like, you got to do the Gorman massacre. Because he referenced Mon Mothma talks about it. He must have said something like...
And since Dave Filoni is head of creative at Lucasfilm now, it is likely that he said, hey, if you're going to... maybe there's a chance that Tony Gilroy came up with this story about this planet, and it's pretty much what we know, and Dave Filoni was like, name it Gorman. Trust me.
Trust me.
Like, this is fantastic. Although
awesome.
they actually talk about the Tarkin thing pretty heavily in the show, so it's likely it wasn't just slapped on. So
it's a mix of both for sure.
Really cool stuff.
Cassian accomplishes it, gets her to safety. I loved how the Imperials were trying to turn off the broadcast of the Senate, but they couldn't do it in time before she says Emperor Palpatine. I thought Emperor Palpatine was going to come up. That would have been cool. That happens in Bad Batch, I think, right? Where he comes up, right? Out of the Senate chambers. That would have been really cool to have a cameo, but maybe they're saving some juice for the last little bit of the show. Maybe we're going to see a lightsaber next week. I would love to see Darth Vader. You don't think it's going to happen?
I don't think the show needs it. I think the show has its own threads to wrap up.
Yeah. But what happens next? Bix leaves Cassian because he says he's done with the rebellion. But she said, she basically breaks up with him so he'll stay in the rebellion. I was like, okay, I don't really know what that means, but I guess she knew he's too important.
I took it as they didn't want to kill off her character, so this is the only way to not kill her off, but get her out of the picture, because Cassian does have to be he has to be all in for the Empire.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about this scene too much or that character decision, but it's interesting. It's an interesting way to try to keep Cassian there.
Only question mark with it is like, Cassian's just like really willing and ready to die, so I'm like, he's not like super trying hard to get back, because he's got to see Bix one more time. So I am questioning, if they do something else with her in the next 3 episodes.
I guess we will see.
I think so. I don't think their story is done.
Am I missing anything else, guys?
Very end of the episode, we meet K2.
That's right. Yeah, they reboot his system.
They reboot him, and they're ready to put him down just in case. And instead, he's himself. He's like, please don't point that at me.
I'm excited because he's a standout from Rogue One for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think they'll keep his humor? Because
I think they did even at the end of that episode when he was like, please don't point your weapon at me.
Yeah.
It's and I think his kind of humor is going to be an interesting addition to the tone of the show.
For sure. And I watched an interview with Alan Tudyk, and apparently him and Cassian got to like ad lib a little bit. So hopefully there is some humor there. Yeah, for sure. Cool. I'm excited for next week. That last episode got me hype, honestly, with the Mon Mothma stuff. A lot of it has been a little slow for me, but yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
You want to talk some cannon fodder real quick?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's jump back in.
All right. So are we done covering the episode?
Yep.
Okay.
We have Thunderbolts after this though.
Okay, I'll be quick. So here I've got two collections of media here. We talked about Dark Disciple, the book about Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Voss. Can I mirror this screen so you can see?
I don't know.
Settings.
I can do this.
Video.
Let's get you big.
Mirror camera. Okay, I got it.
Cool.
Here we go. This is what I really look like. All right, so here's Dark Disciple. Obviously, we talked about this book.
Nice.
And here I've got Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels and the comic adaptation of Rogue One, which features a one-shot comic called Cassian and K2SO. Here's the cover for it.
Uh-oh.
Now, this came out in 2016, and it came out along with the comic adaptation of the movie, and it tells the story of how Cassian and K2SO met. And it tells little, this is how long it is. It's a 20-page one-shot about Cassian going to save 2 rebels who kind of got a little in over their heads. They're like twins or whatever. And along the way, they get stopped by these Imperial security droids, and Cassian manages to flick the switch on one of them and command him to fight all the Imperials, and then he takes them with him.
Uh-oh.
So,
what happened?
Yikes.
So here's the thing. I'm a pretty big proponent of sticking to what's come before, right? But I think this week, 2 new Star Wars things showed that there's pros and cons to that. So, Tales of the Underworld stuck to Dark Disciple like it was gospel. They literally showed the end of the book at the beginning of the show. And that was awesome. But because of what they stuck to, they weren't able to do anything interesting. They just kind of had to spin their wheels and say, yeah, well,
she's alive now.
She's alive now,
She's alive now.
The interesting stuff, the page-turning stuff has already happened and might already be in the future. They stuck to this so well that they didn't know what to do. Maybe there's something in the future, but it held them back sticking to it.
Huh.
Now, I would argue maybe that didn't even need to exist as Tales of the Underworld. If they're going to make a Path show, if it's going to be an Asajj and Voss-led show, maybe this could have been the first episode of it. But as it stands right now, it seemed kind of pointless. Now, I'm not saying it was bad per se, but this
just wasn't super interesting.
Yeah. Now, over here we've got Season 3 of Rebels, and we've got this K2SO and Cassian one shot, both things that Andor had to work with in the past week. I actually came in pretty prepared to because I heard online you're not going to see anything. I heard that Mon Mothma's Declaration of Independence pretty much was going to be in the story arc, so I actually came prepared to talk about Rebels, but they actually did a great job of that, so we're going to leave it out of the equation.
Oh, good.
But I'm going to talk about the K2SO. They did a phenomenal job of working it in with with Rebels.
Yeah, they did.
I was really impressed. But we're going to talk about this one-shot comic. It's hard to say that you can just overwrite something that used to be canon because you want to tell a better story. But I think when they wrote this in 2016, they never thought they were going to do anything else with this character.
Yeah.
Cassian was a not a side character, but he was like the not main protagonist in a one-off spin-off prequel movie. Who on earth would have thought that we would have gotten 16 hours of details about his life? So I don't blame Lucasfilm for saying, hey, write a little funny one-shot about how Cassian and K2 met, and we'll throw it in the comic adaptation. It'll be fun. I don't blame them for writing that, and I don't blame Tony Gilroy and his team for saying, we're not doing that, and we know, and I think it's great that we have this, we know that they can look at source material and say, yes, we're working in this world. This is an event that happened, and we're going to have to tweak a couple of the minor details, but we're gonna make it work, But you have to think that they were aware of this one-shot comic book at the end of the adaptation, and you have to think that they went to Lucasfilm with the decision like, can we steamroll it? Can we pretend it didn't exist? And I'm glad they did. I think they probably already had to, as writers, they probably weren't too happy trying to fit it in with Rebels. You know how creatives can be.
Yeah.
I'm happy that whether it was their decision or Dave Filoni's decision as the VP of creative at Lucasfilm that they made it work. But I'm at the end of the day, until I reread it a couple days ago in prep for this, I had forgotten everything about that one shot. I just remembered he went on a mission, he turned him on, and he brought him with him. As far as I'm concerned, that's the bones. Who cares about these two twins that showed up for 5 pages and never showed up again?
Yeah.
You might say it's a slippery slope. I'm pretty big on what's come before should be recognized. But, really, I don't think anything that was in here really needed to be observed or adapted. So they totally steamrolled it. It's technically not canon anymore, I guess, and I don't think that was the wrong thing to do.
That's interesting because it's like it was probably more interesting the way they did K2SO's introduction than that comic versus that other canon where they stuck to the canon, but it wasn't as interesting of a story. It's an interesting. Yeah.
The real question after all of this is, how do you feel about Ki-Adi-Mundi's age in Acolyte? Did you hear how angry people were about that? It's so funny.
Whatever.
They're like, he would have been a baby. Like, he wouldn't have even been born.
And that's crazy.
You don't read Wikipedia?
Yeah. So
that show was bad, though. By the way, I will just say.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other thing. But yeah. So,
I will stand firm on that one.
They stuck to canon to their detriment once this week, and they steamrolled canon to their benefit another time this week. And I never thought that's the kind of thing that would give me those responses, but they did. So
interesting.
We'll see what happens in the future. I kind of anticipated this ever since they even announced the show. So I wasn't really upset about it. Wasn't really attached to it. I don't think this little comic was that important. And honestly, what I was prepared to say about Rebels if they changed Mon Mothma's story was when they made Rebels 4 years ago, they thought they were telling the story, the definitive story of the building of the Rebel Alliance. And now they have a chance to add to it, and they never thought they would. I was going to forgive them for taking some liberties, but I'm really impressed with how they made it work.
That's a standout for me. Sweet, guys. We did it. Next week is the finale? Is that true?
Next week is the final 4.
Final
three. Final 3.
Oh,
sorry.
4 would have been nice. Let's jump into our final topic, Wade. Thunderbolts came out. We all saw it together with like the entire crew. It was pretty fun.
Yep.
Johnny J was there.
No, Johnny J was not there.
Oh, Johnny J was not there. He was against.
He was kind of there.
Colin was there. But guys, it was a really fun time at the theater. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. Let's just get right into it. Let's jump right into it. We have the Thunderbolts. You have basically all these offshoot B-list characters. You know, you've got Florence Pugh. She's depressed. She's jumping off the second tallest building in the world. She's blowing up a facility. You know, I liked how it started out, even with like the fight scenes and the shadows, kind of foreshadowing a little bit. Oh, play on words there. What was going to happen in the future to her. Also, that was actually a key scene in which it felt very throwaway, but it actually was very key to what happens. But basically, the general vibe of the movie is Valentina De Fontaine, however you say her, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She's trying to tie up loose ends because she's possibly going to be impeached from her position in government. So she's trying to tie up all of her loose ends. She wants all of these different assassins that are under her payroll to kill each other in this crazy bunker. But through that process, they accidentally release Bob. Bob is a suspicious character. And then we got basically that's the formation of the Thunderbolts, you know. These characters decide to not kill each other, but they kill Taskmaster, which was a little funny. But wait, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I thought it was really interesting when that's how it started, was they were all sent to kill each other. And it's like, dang. Like,
it was a great way to bring them together, yeah.
What Sarah said,
I think she was actually trying to get him killed, you know. Obviously, but yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what Sarah said she really liked, was in the Suicide Squad, there are a bunch of bad people who are forced together by the government. But in this movie, they were sent there to kill each other, and they literally decided themselves to stick together, which is great.
Nice.
You know, great character work.
Yeah. How'd you feel about Taskmaster biting the bullet?
Kind of a bummer, because I have two small complaints about the movie. I loved it otherwise. We've already actually touched on both of them. One was that Florence Pugh actually jumped off of that building. She did the stunt herself, but the way they shot it makes it look like she didn't.
Yeah.
So I think they could have gotten more creative with the camera work, and you know, because Tom Cruise does stunts like that, and you can tell it's him. But she jumps off the building, and then it just looks like it's a stunt person. But they made a big deal that it was actually her, and then it didn't look like her. Whatever. So small of a complaint. But two was that I wish they had not had Taskmaster talk, because in the final 10 seconds before she died, they finally made her interesting. You know?
Yeah, she's like, I'm not here for you, or whatever, right?
To me, because when I saw that, I got excited. I was like, good, she can talk. She's going to be snarky. This is what we've been waiting for, you know? I was like, they were hiding something about her, and it's this, that she talks. She's in the movie, right? And then they kill her. So I don't think I was a fan of that. I think if they were going to one-off kill her, you don't show the actress's face. You don't.
It is annoying because they built her up so high in Black Widow to be this massive villain, and then it's like, nope, she doesn't matter whatsoever. So whatever. I think it is kind of also Marvel kind of like saying out with the old a little bit.
Well, so
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Literally, you know, you're right, because Jake Schreier, the director, said in an interview about the Taskmaster's death. He asked Marvel, because Taskmaster had been in earlier scripts of the movie, but in this final script that pretty much was what we saw, she wasn't in it at all. And then so he went to Kevin Feige, and he was like, all right, can I have a character to kill in the bunker? Like, give me someone. I want someone to die quickly in the bunker. And that's who he gave him. So that was truly them saying, we have no plans for Taskmaster, at least this version. So you got to respect that they know their direction and said, yep, you can have her back, and you can kill the character.
Yeah, it was cool to see.
I was just going to say, the suit tech still exists. You know, the tech is what teaches her, you know, so
yeah,
maybe someone else can put it on.
We need a comic accurate version. That would be sweet.
Yep.
We get to see some of Bob's powers. He touches Florence Pugh. He touches John Walker. He kind of shows them their worst moment, their lowest moment. I'm assuming that's kind of a crazy power skill,
like a dark part of their mind.
Yeah. And then one of the funniest scenes, them trying to get up the elevator shaft, but they're like, you know, they're doing the class. It just felt like a classic, like, comedy action type thing to happen, you know, where it's like they have to like hold on to each other as they're going up this crazy super high shaft. I thought that was awesome.
Classic misadventure kind of stuff, really, you know.
Yes, yeah. Actually, it's kind of weird. I've been getting a lot of like suggested videos about John Walker, like on Instagram and stuff, and I'm like, man, they kind of redeemed his character a little bit. We gotta talk about him a little bit.
He was so redeemed for me in this, and I didn't like hate him before, but now I'm like all in. Like I wasn't gonna collect the Falcon and Winter Soldier Steelbook because I thought that show was just whatever. Yeah. But now I'm like, I think I need to. I think I want to because, John Walker is really good.
Like they were showing like there's a clip from Falcon and the Winter Soldier where he's like being interviewed and he's like talking about how great he is and everything, and I'm like, oh my gosh! And then they bring him to this such low point, but also he's like a jerk throughout this movie too. So he's like purposefully being a jerk.
Yeah, and that's kind of him. You know what I mean? He's kind of coping. He's being a jerk. He's like, whatever, I'm cool, but really, he's really hurting deep down. My favorite moment with Walker's character, and this is when I finally felt like you guys was like, was when, the whole time he was like, yeah, I've got my family. I'm going home to a wife and kids. What do you have,
Yeah.
Obviously that's what he's playing to himself in his mind. What do you have? But then Bucky reveals, he has them all tied up, which is hilarious too. Bucky reveals, he's like, yeah, Walker's wife left him, blah, blah, blah. And
took the kid.
They didn't play it for laughs. Instead, Yelena kind of looked at him and was like, I get it. You know what I mean?
Like, he didn't say one word.
Yeah, this guy
just let that moment sit.
Like this guy is going through it just like the rest of us. And he's not like, you're lying or whatever. He's just like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Just that's so human to be exposed like that. And I think once he was able to drop his "I'm awesome" facade after that moment and really admit that he, like all the other people in this movie, had some serious issues. What awesome character work with honestly not a lot of screenplay and just a lot of acting. Really good stuff.
Yeah. And there's one specific scene where they're like, he's like not being a jerk, and they're like, "What? Like, why aren't you being a jerk?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll step it up a little bit or whatever." And then he makes a comment about like how like I don't know. I thought it was really good, but they get out of the bunker. They fight some assassins because Val they know that they escaped. Obviously, we see some of Bob's skill sets. Flying, bulletproof. Who is this guy? They escape. I love how Red Guardian, though. Obviously we didn't talk about Red Guardian's relationship with Florence Pugh's character before they get in the bunker. She's talking to him how she's like, sad and alone and whatever. And he's just all about the glory days. He's watching videos of like Mother Russia, how like he's being honored in this parade. He's like, get out of the way. Like somebody's blocking him on the camera shot or whatever. So good.
Yeah, he's like.
And I love how he's he's driving the limo for Val. He's like, so he kind of figures out, pieces together what's happening, and he drives.
He takes the limo out to the desert,
picks them up. That was one of the best scenes in this movie. Was him picking them up, him like screaming, and then also we got to talk about Bucky's introduction into this movie. Obviously, Senator Bucky now, all that stuff. I was kind of like, about all that, but so was Bucky was feeling the same way about it. So I don't know if they wrote themselves into a weird corner with the previous Captain America Brave New World where they made him a senator. I don't know, but then immediately he's like,
scene in Brave New World because of his story.
Because of this? Oh, okay.
Yeah. That felt like that was one of those things they tacked on.
Yeah, okay. So Bucky like tracks them down, but his introduction, how did you guys feel about seeing Bucky like actually being sick, like shooting the gun with the freaking, bombs and stuff, and
Avengers level moment? It felt like, like an Avengers intro, which
it felt like we were back.
Dang, we're back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it felt like Marvel was back a little bit there.
Which honestly, I was not expecting to feel like that epicness. Just because we haven't felt it in forever. But it was great to feel it when he like first comes and blows up the two trucks. And
what I loved about that scene too, and we talked about this after we saw the movie. That scene was kind of in like all the trailers. It was kind of a scene that we knew was going to happen at one point. Yet it was so well done that it was still hype to watch it happen.
Yeah, it felt explosive, Yeah, for sure.
That was how I felt actually about Red Guardian and his jokes. Like from the trailer, I was like, these are going to be so stupid. Just bad jokes, just not funny.
But the delivery in the moment is so much better.
It was so good.
Yeah. What else do we got? What else happens? So they get Bucky ties them up, because he thinks they're just awful assassins, which they are. But he kind of decides to let them go, and he's like, let's team up, let's go and take on Val because she's captured Bob. She's the one who's bought Avengers Tower. She's made it Sentry's Watchtower, which is from the comics, which is very interesting.
Yeah,
that's cool. What they chose to do.
Watchtower thing, yeah.
Yeah, the weird black edges and stuff. That's from the comics, I think. So yeah, Sentry. They plow right into the building. They take on Val, but of course she's got Bob captured. He's got this new suit, but also, as we know, the super soldier serum amplifies what's already there. If you know it from Captain America, even with U.S. Soldier, he's got U.S. Agent. Sorry, Sentry's got some sort of schizophrenia, or he's got some major problems. He's not necessarily a bad guy, but he's got some serious issues. So it kind of amplifies that.
Yeah, they were testing this new serum on like random people, and most of them were dying. But Bob, of course, ends up. Or
he's a drug addict, yeah.
Right, or something. But it ends up working on him. And it's probably not their first choice, but
yeah,
with all this trauma.
I did think it was interesting when they said, we found you running around in, Southeast Asia, and that's when we started testing it on you. Because that reminded me of the one point that originally Steven Yeun was going to play this character. And, dude, Bill Pullman was awesome. He owned it, but I think Steven Yeun would have crushed it too.
Either or.
So that's something that kind of was interesting to me, and but I think it added to his character. It made it seem like he was struggling, so he decided to travel the world. But that was just a little anecdote that I remembered when I was watching.
Yeah, that's cool.
How cool Steven Yeun probably would have been.
Which just is a weird note. It is Lewis Pullman. It's Bill Pullman's son.
Oh yeah, did I say yeah?
You said Bill, but it iconic actor, Spaceballs. So pretty cool to see him. Yep, Independence Day. Cool to see him. But he's playing Bob for the second time.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Top Gun Maverick, he was just Bob as well, which is so funny.
Yeah. Turns out, and I really liked seeing his skill set. He takes out all of them like it's nothing. Dude, that was a cool scene.
It was scary, honestly. It was fun.
Yeah. And takes them out, so where they run away, which we've never seen that in a Marvel movie before. I feel like
I love that they just ran away. They were like,
they're like, we're out of here. We gotta go. We haven't seen that. I feel like so that was pretty good.
That's what causes Florence Pugh or what's her name?
Yes,
it causes her to like call all of them out and herself, and then
Yelena,
break down. Yelena, basically
break
down.
Which
at that point.
That was my favorite part of the movie. Her breaking down and Red Guardian chasing after her and being like, you see all these problems that you have, but when I look at you, I don't see those. I see your strengths, And that was really emotional.
Just with that. Dang.
That was really emotional, dude. And
it was a really tender father-daughter scene, and the relationship was never anything normal. And he's so good intentioned but bad at it.
Yes.
And you remember from Black Widow, she was the only one who thought that the family was real because she was young enough when she was thrown into it. Obviously the parents were agents, and Natasha was old enough to know things weren't really, real. But to her, he's her dad, And she hasn't.
That's why he's like, I didn't think you would want me. He's like, I didn't think you would actually want me because it wasn't real. But he actually does love her, and so that is a cool detail as well. The name was her soccer team. They kind of retcon the comic origin where it is named after Thunderbolt Ross, But in this, it's more, name it after the soccer team that she was on when she was a little kid. So that's fun. But yeah, I really, really liked that. That was a really good scene. And this prompts her really to take leadership, of the team a little bit here. When Bob goes off the rails, He tries to kill Val even. He's like, why would a god answer to anybody? He starts thinking these things through, but also it's a little bit of his dark side coming through, and he doesn't even remember these things that he's saying, apparently, because he's got schizophrenia or something, and he becomes the Void, which they've been referencing the whole movie. This like just all black, white eyes. I liked the character design. How'd you guys feel about the Void?
Terrifying. Honestly.
Yeah, really freaky. Really good stuff.
It was fun to watch. It was like, it really felt like Marvel was back, like with villain and with,
a really
good
unique
guy turned villain. And
cool, yeah.
So he just starts like blipping people, like turning them to dust, black shadows, basically. And then the whole town, which was wild. And then Yelena just walks right into it, kind of.
Dude, the little girl.
Oh my gosh! Our theater, everybody was gasping, like, like it was wild.
That was pretty gutsy to do.
Yeah,
yeah. Dang.
And then, man, even Red Guardian's reaction to Yelena going into the thing, I was like, "Geez, Louise, this movie is getting me," and I was not expecting it to get me. You know what I mean? But yeah, it takes her to her darkest moment. Then she finally finds Bob. This is my one complaint. I would have liked to see everybody else's. Like, they didn't really develop Ghost really at all. She's just kind of a one, which we did get her backstory a lot in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But I would have liked to see, like, all of them, like, even Red Guardian's, like, darkest moment, just to fully dive deep. Even, we saw John Walker's, but even Bucky, because Bucky's such a main player in the MCU. Maybe to see a mission he hadn't seen before would have been really cool. Like something he wouldn't have remembered. That would have been kind of wild, because they all go in after her to help her take on. They don't know if she's dead or not, or if this does take you to a different reality of some sort. Yeah. So how'd you guys feel about that? Yeah.
It says a lot about the quality of the movie that you're able to say, I really think I would enjoy knowing more about the characters. And you're not saying it in a way like, oh yeah, it was good, but if they'd done this, it would have been better. But more like, this was so good and I want more. That's when you know that you're thinking about something good.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wait.
One thing about this scene, with them jumping between the bunch of like, trauma events and stuff, I think it could have been really bad, like, and just weird, artsy almost. But the way they did it was actually like really intriguing, and you felt the weight of every single room that they were in. Even Bob's quiet room, but obviously downstairs his parents are fighting and stuff, and blaming him, and it's just like, dang, dude, just like tough stuff to watch.
And Yelena killing her little childhood friend as like a initiation almost is like, oh gosh, over and over again though. Pretty wild. But I do love how they all come in after her. Red Guardian rips a pillow. They're all like actually fighting stuff, and he just rips a pillow. So good. His character, oh man, so good. I do love how throughout
that could be like one note and like not funny, but it's just played with and written with such passion that everything works.
And I love how throughout he's like, I see the makings of a team here. He like just like really wants a team, He really wants to do something. So good.
Avengers.
Yeah.
Oh man, we got to talk about that. And then they save the day, and this was kind of maybe a complaint for some people. They save the day with a hug. They hug Sentry. They give him a big group hug.
That's what makes the movie. I can't believe that's a complaint.
I like it.
Him? Yeah, you can't punch this guy.
You can't stop him.
I love that there's no sky beam, that there's no like super trap. You know what I mean? But instead they just have to show him that he's loved. And even Walker, who's just been belittling him the whole movie, has to come in and hold him, and it just awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
Like, what did he say? We're here for you, Bobby, or something. He's been calling him Bobby the whole movie, or something. It's like, geez, Louise.
Like I said, I think that whole scene could have been really cheesy, but the way they did it was just very powerful. Honestly.
Yeah, really cool. And as humans, we heal together, and so that's what it took. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's kind of the
positive
end.
Messages from this group of killers, and
yeah. And they go
and bad guys.
It felt like old Marvel with like the government's involved. You know what I mean? But it's not uberly political. They really balance the themes well. There's a good message. It's not like I just felt like it was a really good, all well-rounded movie. But let's get into the end here, guys. We got Val is like pretending to be in trouble. She's like, "Oh no, what am I gonna do?" And then the big press conference revealing this has been her plan all along. She wants to just be the new in charge of the new heroes. She wanted Sentry to be this new hero. She wants the new Avengers to be under her control.
I don't know if her plan all along was this group.
Yeah.
No. But she sees
do that really well and really quick. Yeah. She was like, yeah. Right. This is what I've been working on.
Yeah, crazy. I do think it's weird there's no ramifications for Bob. I guess they don't know who did it. They don't know who the Void is.
Technically nothing happened because all the people came back.
Yeah. Oh, true. Yeah. I don't know. I guess property
just
damage,
like a little bit of destruction to the city, but
yeah, so we have the new Avengers, and then I love how they address it in the credits, like not my Avengers, B-Vengers, saying like how they're like crappy. Who's Bob? Who are these people?
Team. Yeah.
That's so good.
And I love that too, that they're being overt about it. Like they're like being like, look, guys, we get it. There's like 3 idiot super soldiers, you know what I mean? Like another Black Widow. Like we get it. They suck, Like that's the point. And that's kind of the point of the movie too, is they're all so messed up, but they're gonna be a team anyways.
And that's the thing, they suck, but their characters are really good. They're really laid out well in this movie. Maybe Ghost is the most underutilized, I would say. She's kind of just more so a trick where she can disappear. She can go through walls.
Yeah, hopefully,
and stuff, but
hopefully in future stuff they can develop a little more. But
for sure.
But I'm glad she was there because the chemistry between, specifically between Ghost, U.S. Agent, and Yelena was ridiculous. It was like 3 siblings who hadn't seen each other in years.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous chemistry between the 3 of them. And that's you add in the dad and you add in the awkward guy. It's perfect. Great team.
So good. Yeah. And I was thinking that throughout. I was like, man, I really wish like Zemo was here or even Abomination, because I feel like those characters are Thunderbolts in the comics, I think. Mm-hmm. I know Zemo starts the Thunderbolts in the comics.
The OG,
but I was like, man, there's just not room for them. They really honed in on the characters that we had, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed it. Let's get into the post-credit scenes. We get the Wheaties box. Finally, the Thunderbolts are on the Wheaties box. You get and we'll talk about this in a second.
Get into this one.
David Harbour is shaved. He's got his mustache. He's like trying to get a woman to buy the Wheaties. I thought it was a pretty funny post-credit scene.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I said, his humor landing consistently is such a benefit to the movie.
It is.
Everything he does is funny and makes sense. And yeah.
And then the new Avengers are in their watchtower, but we get a reveal that Sam Wilson is actually suing them for the rights of the name The Avengers, because off screen he has formed his own Avengers, which I feel like that should have been the end credit scene of his movie, but we'll get into that. But very interesting. You get all their new costumes, which is cool.
I think before we go on, I think we do have a comment.
What?
How's it going, guys? From Travis.
We're doing good, bro. Yeah. We're talking about Thunderbolts. So thanks for being on, dude.
He said it is bizarre how many Captain America guys are running around.
Yeah, there's like 3 on the Thunderbolts on the
Avengers.
Wild. Travis, thanks for being here, man. Hope you enjoyed it.
There's 2 Falcons. There's 3, 4 Caps. It's hilarious.
Black Widows. Get into this. It's like basically Winter Soldiers all over the place.
Yeah. We also have this spaceship coming in. They're saying there's some sort of space crisis going on, which we don't really know what that means. But also that this spaceship just comes in. They zoom in on it. You got the 4 logo. So I guess this kind of spoils Fantastic Four a little bit, that somehow they're going to end up in our 616 universe. So very interesting. This is definitely building up to Doomsday. This is also building up to some sort of like New Avengers versus Sam Wilson's Avengers, some sort of clashing going on, but also Fantastic Four. So guys, how'd you feel about it?
Something that's interesting is that this end credit scene, this one specifically, was directed by Joe and Anthony Russo on the set of Doomsday. They shot
3
it
weeks
4
ago.
weeks ago. Yeah.
4 weeks ago, yeah.
It was
Are you serious?
It was the first thing they shot when the cast came together. So this end credit scene is really our first look at the visual style and what Doomsday is going to be like. So I love the new. That's why you could tell there were new costumes.
Yep.
And all of that. Their new Avengers outfits look great. I'm not sure until I bet they're not really spoiling Fantastic Four. I wouldn't be surprised if Fantastic Four leave their universe during the movie to try to learn something and then go back.
Maybe.
And I bet that would be because right now it seems like, hey, we'll try to stop. Hey, we couldn't. We left. That seems like that's going to be everything. I bet there's something else going on.
People are thinking like Galactus blew up their universe and they're just escaping.
But then again, I think we can go back to a pod maybe about 4 weeks ago where I said there's something going on with Taskmaster. She doesn't die in the beginning of the movie. So
you tried that.
Yeah. But yeah, this was really cool. I really like let's jump into them, Wade.
Just subscribe, says Travis. Zemo would have been a cool post credits, revealing he was behind the Thunderbolts and comes out as the leader of his own Avengers group.
That would have been wild.
We could do some Dark Avengers, because that's certainly precedent for that. Yeah, I don't know how he'd be behind it, but I think Zemo's too interesting and too smart to leave him on the raft forever. Yeah, speaking of the raft, he says, I think with all of the people on the raft, something is going to happen, resulting in them all being freed and having their own team of sorts. Now that's something. Yeah. There's some precedent for that in the comics too, where characters in the raft. I think there was like a portal or something. Like if there were really bad people in the raft, they could put them in like what do they call it in Marvel? Like the negative zone.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. They put Daredevil in it in Civil War. Yeah, the negative zone or whatever it's called.
Yeah, so they put people in the negative zone in the raft and then in the negative zone, and that's actually how a character who's a Guardians of the Galaxy member named Jack Flag. He was a vigilante and he got arrested and put in the raft, and then from the raft he got put in the negative zone and he got all mixed up in that stuff and he became a member of Guardians of the Galaxy. I always thought he'd be a good addition to the team, and it's never something they really got right for. But yeah, there's it'd be cool if they could work in something with everybody on the raft. I mean, who's
Red
there
Hulk,
right now?
Leader
Trish Walker from Jessica Jones. Remember that they sent her to the raft at the end of Jessica Jones.
I think they're still gonna go with that though.
Yeah,
you got the leader,
Zemo,
maybe Abomination, Zemo. There's gonna be some sort of
quite a few, yeah.
Or they're desperate enough to let them go, to let them help. That's what I think. I think they're going to be desperate enough to try to stop Doom.
So they'll be like the real Thunderbolts, maybe?
I don't know.
That'd be cool.
We will see. That would be wild.
So we got the new Avengers, Sam Wilson's Avengers, and then the Thunderbolts.
Who knows? We will see. The Dark Avengers, so to speak. But yeah, am I missing anything else on the little bit of this movie? Any final theories about what we're gonna be seeing in Doomsday, guys?
That end credit scene had Bob, and he was just sitting there, like what was that about? Like
dude, they're gonna tell Bob, like, Bob, you got to kill everybody. Like,
yeah, when they're trying not to get him to go back to his powers.
Yeah, but they're definitely gonna use him in some capacity for Doom. You know what I mean? Like, or he's gonna be like Hulk, and he's like, no, I don't want to. I don't know, like Hulk in Infinity War. I don't know, but I can see. One of those main names was Chris Hemsworth in the chair reveal. So I feel like Thor is gonna be a main player with Captain America, Sam Wilson. I feel like.
Yeah, I think Thor is definitely going to be a main character in the movie, which is good.
Yes. That should have been the end credit scene. Was like him recruiting Thor. That would have been cool.
being like,
Let's jump
dude,
into
yeah,
this.
we need some Avengers.
Yeah, we do. Wait, let's read this next one.
Yeah, another comment. One route with Zemo is we haven't seen him react to T'Challa's death, who saved his life. Having Zemo sent to Wakanda, having to protect T'Challa's son in an invasion out of respect. Could be cool. Yeah, that could be cool.
That is
That
a
would be
great
cool.
idea. Dang. Yeah,
that would connect a whole lot back.
Because he
That
really
would- that-
respected T'Challa too. He said, "You're a good man. I'm sorry I had to kill your father." You know, he called him
Yeah.
like dutiful. He was like, you know, sorry this happened to you, man. Before he tried to
Man.
kill himself or unalive himself.
Civil War. Civil War is underrated. Such a good movie. Jeez. But yeah, guys, should we wrap this up here?
Yeah, we've been going on a while.
Any final thoughts, guys, before we head on out of here?
I'm pretty happy with the stuff coming out of the Disney mill recently.
But dude, yeah, 2025 has been an awesome year.
Yeah, having
cinema.
hits from Star Wars and Marvel kind of back to back is huge. They need it. You know, a couple more bad projects on either property, and we've already lost one of our own. You know, How many more are we going to lose if projects continue to not be exemplary? And you know, that's a hard thing to keep on reaching, but you know, that's the brand. You know, Marvel around Endgame was known to be like consistent, awesome entertainment. You know, you got to stick with that. You know, you can't be rewriting movies 5 days before they come out. Because we see what it looks like. So I'm happy that things seem to be in a pretty good spot right now.
We just need Superman to be good and Fantastic Four to be good, and we're cruising. And Predator Badlands.
Yeah.
And Tron Ares.
Jurassic World Rebirth.
Jurassic World Rebirth. And Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. That's the next one, isn't it?
And How to Train Your Dragon. And no, I'm just kidding.
So many movies.
We're gonna have to talk about
Stitch, yeah.
Mission Impossible. I've been rewatching all of them in prep for the new one, and I'm having such a great time. So
that's Memorial Day weekend, right?
Yeah, but I won't be here. But we'll get to it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'll be out of town as well. But sweet guys, thanks for being on. Let's get into how they can subscribe to us, Wade. You can subscribe to us here on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. We always post our podcasts there. You can email us at thewebinarseminarpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to connect with you guys. Shoot in your questions. We'll answer your questions live, of course, if you're ever on a live stream. Travis, thank you for being here, bro. But guys, thank you so much for being on the Webinar Seminar. We love you guys. Peace out.